Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga. Jaya Srinivas Govinda, Jaya Srinivas Govinda, Srinivas Govinda, Jaya Srinivas Govinda. Jaya Prahlad Narasimha, Jaya Prahlad Narasimha, Prahlad Narasimha, Jaya Prahlad Narasimha, Jaya Prahlad Narasimha, Jaya Prahlad Narasimha, Prahlad Narasimha, Jaya Prahlad Narasimha, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodhanandana Jayo Vraja Jana Ranjana Jayo Yashodhanandana Jayo Vraja Jana Ranjana Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram Jayo Nittai Gauranga Jayo Nittai Gauranga Nittai Gauranga Jayo Nittai Gauranga Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 59. Please repeat after me. Vishaya vinivartante Vishaya vinivartante Niraharasya dehinaha Niraharasya dehinaha Rasavarjam rasopyasya Rasavarjam rasopyasya Param drishtva nivartate Param drishtva nivartate Somebody can say the verse. Vishaya vinivartante Niraharasya dehinaha Rasavajjam rasopyasya Param drishtva nivartate Vishaya vinivartante Niraharasya dehinaha Rasavajjam rasopyasya Param drishtva nivartate Vishaya vinivartante Niraharasya dehinaha Rasavajjam rasopyasya Param drishtva nivartate. Word to word translation. Vishayaha, objects for sense enjoyment. Vinivartante, are practiced to be refrained from. Niraharasya, by negative restrictions. Dehinaha, for the embodied. Rasavarjam, giving up the taste. Rasaha, sense of enjoyment. Api, although there is. Asya, his. Param, far superior things. Drishtva, by experiencing. Nivartate, he ceases from. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Purport. Unless one is transcendentally situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is somewhat like restricting a deceased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga in the matter of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, etc. is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Agnana Timirandasya Gnana Janashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Here, a very important secret of practicing spiritual life is being described over here. Unless we get a higher taste, it is difficult to give up lower taste. We can artificially do it for some time, but it doesn't sustain itself. So the example we give, when we are small children, right? Especially boys. What kind of toys do boys like? See, everybody say cars first. Garbage truck. Right? They somehow have a lot of attraction for garbage truck. I don't know why. Because it does all these sounds, it lifts up and fish and all those things. Right? Some of our kids are there. You try to take away their car from them, there will be a world war right here in front of you. Right? Now, the same children, when they grow up, right? Do they have any attraction for those toy cars? No. I want a full car. See, he wants. Right? They want a full-fledged car now. When they go to be teenagers, I want to drive a car, I want to drive a race car. Right? Very natural. And once they experience the real car, then they have no taste for this toy cars anymore. They want the real car. In the Shastras, in the Puranas, there is a description of Vishwavitra. is a very famous sage, one of the important sages of our of the universe. Anybody remembers what was Vishwavitra before he became a sage? Yeah, right? What was his name? Anybody knows? His name was King Kaushika. And he had a famous fight with another rishi. Which rishi was that? Vashishta, right? So what happened? King Kaushika was a ruler, he had his kingdom. And one day, he was going on just a typical hunting expedition with his army. The whole army was with him, small army. And then he happened to come to Sage Vashishta's ashrama. And his whole army was very thirsty and hungry. And so he came to Sage Vashishta and said, "Can you please help us? We are all very this thing. Can you give us something?" So he thought, some small sage, maybe he'll give us some water and maybe some fruits. And at least he will give us some relief. Then we'll go somewhere else and have, we'll find something. Right? But Vashishta organized a huge feast for his entire army. Right? Anybody knows how he was able to do it? Because Kamadhenu was with him. Right? He had been blessed to have Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu was the daughter of Surabhi, the celestial cow. And Kamadhenu's special characteristic was that, if you ask anything, she'll give that to you. In whatever quality you want. There was no limit. And so this case, Kaushika went to Vasishta and asked, "Oh, you are just a saint. How were you able to organize such a big feast for all of us?" And he said, "It's nothing. I was blessed to have this Kamadhenu. That's why I was able to produce." And then this Kaushika said, "Hey, I need this. I am the king. I should have everything that is important." Right? And so he said, "Can you, I'll give you 1,000 cows. Just give me this one Kamadhenu." Right? Now, Vashishta said, "See, it is not a matter of what Kamadhenu gives us and all that. We've been serving mother. Kamadhenu is like our mother. We've been serving her for so long. We don't ask anything from her at all. Very rarely, like occasion like this, you come, we ask. So, it's like we can't give away our mother. Like somebody comes and says, 'Give me your mother, I'll give you $1 million. Will you give your mother?' Right? Like that he said. And said, 'Sorry, I cannot give.' And this Kaushika got very angry. He said, 'What is this? King, I'm asking you, you're not able to give me? I'll teach you a lesson.' And he instructed his army to attack Vashishta and take away the cow forcibly. And then Kamadhenu produced a huge army that came and defeated Kaushika's army. And he was very insulted. He said, 'I am going to become a bigger rishi than you.' So, in one sense, if you see Vishwavitra's journey, he is developing a higher taste. And so, he wants higher taste, he wants to give up lower taste. He figured out, hey, what is all this kingdom business? I am a king of this thing, I have an army. Look at this sage. He didn't even fight. He didn't even say anything. His cow defeated me. So I want to become a sage now because I'll have higher powers than a king's powers. Right? So that was his motivation. That I'm going to go do tapasya and do all these things. And he went on to the forest and started doing very rigorous tapasya. He started doing such tapasya that Indra got a little perturbed. Right? Because Indra's position is it's like a post. Right? A person occupies the post. It's the person who has done a lot of tapasya occupies the post. So that's why you see in many cases when anybody is doing tapasya anywhere and it reaches a certain level, Indra gets a little anxious. Mera post ko thoda trouble ho gaya. Right? He's afraid that his post will be taken away. Then what is his weapon of choice at that time? Huh? Menaka, Urvashi, he's got a list of different celestial beings that he will send to distract this thing. And again, back to this verse, param drishtva na nivartate. See, in the case of Vishwavitra, he was sitting deep in meditation, doing so much of tapasya, right? Oblivious to the world, and he was doing this. And he had amassed a lot of punya. He was very powerful by that time. So, he was doing this meditation and, what is it that broke his meditation? Anybody remembers? Huh? Just the sound of the ankle bells of Menaka. He didn't even see Menaka. See, it said in the Shastras that for the soul, see, we are a soul, spirit soul that is encased in this body, right? So, these hands, legs, these are a machine that is covering my real self. It is said that, the souls, out of the soul's different potencies, the only way to reach the soul, because we are sleeping inside this body, is through the sound vibration. And so in this case, Menaka was able to exploit his, that particular loophole, right? Just by tinkling of ankle bells. And then in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate. What is tinkling of ankle bells? It's not the tinkling of ankle bells that Vishwamitra was caught. He started thinking, where is this tinkling coming from? Right? And then by that time, he started putting his thoughts on, where the tinkling is coming from. She was a celestial being. It is said the celestial beings, there's a fragrance that comes out of their body. Unlike, a material body like ours, in this Bhuloka, what comes out of our body? Sweat and smell and bad things. Unless we keep putting deodorant and scent and all those things, we don't smell nicely all the time, right? We have to take bath and we have to put all these things. No, it's said that naturally from their body only, fragrance comes out. And, so many descriptions are there of the heavenly planetary systems. The Shastras explain this because, see, if you are anyway going to be attracted by this, okay, we'll explain. If you want to go there, you can go. If you want to go higher than that, you can do that also. So that way you don't get trapped by these lower levels. And so, first he heard the ankle bell, then he heard the smell, and then he opened his eyes. Where is this beautiful smell coming from? Then Gaya comes in. Right? He fell for Menaka and he was disturbed from his this thing, and then she spent a lot of time with her. Right? And later, one day, he suddenly woke up. Hey, what is this? Right? I came here to do meditation, to do tapasya, to become, more powerful than Vasishta, and I got caught in this Menaka affair. And so he becomes very disturbed, and he tells her to go away, and he continues his tapasya. Right? So we see here, because he had not developed a real taste, he was just still practicing, as Prabhupada is telling over here. He was doing Ashtanga yoga, You can do all this asana, pranayama, yama, niyama, asana, pratyahara, right? The different stages, pranayama, pratyahara and all that. You can do these different stages, but till you develop a real taste, you'll still have attraction for the lower tastes. If you continue the story of Vishwavitra, it's a long story, but I won't go into all the details. Later, he becomes a very powerful sage, right? And then after he becomes a very powerful sage, he goes to meet Vasishtha, right? And when he comes to meet Vasishtha, Vasishtha very nicely welcomes him, because he's a big sage and this thing. Because Vasishtha Muni never had any ill feelings towards Vishwamitra in the entire process. He was just wanted to protect Kamadeva. And there are a lot of other things that happen in between. So many other people Vishwamitra gives protection to, and a lot of things happen. I won't go into all the details. But later, finally, towards the end, when he comes to meet Vasishtha, and he meets Vasishtha, and they're talking about, there's also an incident where he is not happy that Vasishtha did not give him due respect after all his achievements. And then later, in a conversation with Vasishtha, he realizes that I've become a Maharishi, I've done all these things, still my false ego is holding me back. Right? And then when he rises above his false ego, then he truly starts really relating with Vasishtha as a great, another great spiritualist. And that's when he truly becomes mature in his spiritual understanding. So we see here in the story of Vishwamitra, there is a layering of different levels of improvement of his consciousness that happens. Right? He goes from a lower level of consciousness, being a king who's so caught up in the worldly affairs that he sees something, he saw Kamadhenu with this thing. You could have been happy. Oh, I have a saint in my king who can do whatever I want. If you wanted something, why did you want Kamadhenu? You want something. If you want something, you can go and ask Vasishtha. Na? Vasishtha will say, okay, take and go. What? He doesn't care. Right? But no, he wanted to possess it himself. And then he, went and did tapasya. And then he learned, getting caught up in the attraction to, higher society women. Right? It is said in the Shastras that when you are fully advanced in your spiritual life, right, and you are ready to go back to Vaikuntha, right, there's a description in the story of Ajamila. There's a description in a few other places in the Bhagavatam. There's a description, right? What happens? Who comes to take you? Huh? Yamadutas will come. That is, if you have not done your spiritual life properly, Yamadutas will come. If you have done your spiritual life properly, then Vishnudutas will come. Right? In Ajamila's case, yes, Yamadutas came for him because Ajamila was a Brahmana who had given up his Brahminical ways, and he had taken attraction to a prostitute, and he had driven away his nicely very loving wife and serving wife, and his parents, he had drew them away from home, and so many bad things in it. That is why the Yamadutas came. And because he called out the name of Narayana, then Vishnudutas also came and then gave him some additional time to say, purify yourself. And after he goes to the bank of the Ganges and purifies himself, and is fully spiritually elevated, then he was ready to go back to Godhead. Then it said that a golden aeroplane came. And in that golden aeroplane there were Vishnudutas who welcomed him and said, please come with us. We come here to take you back to Godhead. But then the story doesn't end there. When you are on the way back to Godhead, the Shastras explain, they take you on a route of all the higher planetary systems. Right? We are supposed to be in the lower of the middle planetary systems. Earth is, out of the 14 planetary systems, They are usually, the 14 planetary systems are further classified into upper, middle and lower. We are in the lower of the middle planetary systems. So there are higher middle planetary systems above us, and there is a higher planetary systems available. All the way, you'll go to Indraloka. Indraloka, by the way, is only considered to be higher of the middle planetary systems. It's not even higher planetary systems. What we say, Indra, demigods and all those things, that's all still in the middle planetary systems. And then description of the higher planetary systems where very evolved rishis stay. And what is the highest planet in this material world? Brahma's planetary system, right? Mahaloka. So there, very, very evolved living beings live. And so it is said that this aeroplane takes you first into Gandharva Loka, into Yakshaloka, and then into Indra's, these things. Go past Menaka and Urvashi saying, do you want this? He said, if you want this, then it'll stop right there. Say, thank you very much, get down and it'll go. Right? Why is that? Because if you still have attraction for these things, then you don't belong in the spiritual world. Here, this is what you want, take. Because ultimately, one has to, because nothing can be done out of force. If you have not developed the real taste, it is very difficult to give up the lower taste. Artificially you can try. So that is why we see even in our traditions also it is there. Even in the other religions also. There is one very famous monastery in the Greek islands. Right? In that monastery, there are people maintain pin drop silence. Nobody talks. And only once a week, one boat comes, drops off some supplies, and any exchange of people, like somebody wants to be visiting or somebody is going. Only once a week, one boat will come. And there are no women in that entire island. It's a supposedly a very beautiful, very nice monastery. And people there, they're just practicing silence. They'll have prayers in the morning. And they just practice silence throughout the day. They don't talk to anybody. We can make all these attempts at keeping us away from, the different allurements of this material world. But unless internally we have developed a taste for Sat, Chit and Ananda, right? Sat means eternity. Chit means full of knowledge. Ananda means full of bliss. That is the true nature of the soul. Right? The soul's nature is our own taste, our own qualities. Satchidananda is our qualities. If we do not develop that attachment for Satchidananda and that taste, we'll still be attracted to all these different allurements. Right? So this is a very important secret of advancing in spiritual life. We have to go beyond this. That's why we see, when initially Prabhupada started this movement here in the Western world, he went to New York, right, for preaching. And the kind of people who came to him, like what kind of people came to him first? Right? Hippies, who are all, fully into drugs and, you name it, they are doing it and done it. Right? And they were fully, deeply intoxicated and everything. So what did Prabhupada do? Initially, when they all came, he just said, you come in, join for some kirtan, and what else will you do? Lots of prasadam. That's all, just kirtan and prasadam. Now, if you read the initial days, many of these people would come and they would do this, and Swamiji, I'll come back in 5 minutes. And then they'll go outside there was a small temple, was a small, storefront. They'll go outside the storefront they'll smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes and then come back inside again. Right? Because they couldn't give up easily in the initial days. But Prabhupada said, no, don't worry. Just chant Hare Krishna, listen to Kirtan and eat prasadam. And they kept doing that, they kept doing that. Then they themselves gave up the taste. They said, Swamiji, what else can I do? How do I improve in my spiritual life? Okay, now you are ready. And then Prabhupada gave a few more things. In fact, it is said that the 4 regulative principles that we all talk about in this thing, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we talk about there are 4 basic regulative principles that at least brings you to the stage of being a human being, it is said. Right? We say, no intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex, and no gambling. Right? So these are the 4. Because why? Because these regulative principles are preventing you from destroying the 4 pillars of Dharma. Okay? Now, what are the pillars of Dharma that each one of them is protecting? Let us see if you're able to make the connection between all of them. Right? So, first thing I said, no intoxication. Which pillar of Dharma is that protecting? Anybody else? Maybe you can say, what are the 4 pillars of Dharma? Satyam, truthfulness, Saucham. Saucham is cleanliness, Daya, compassion, and then Ahimsa is in Daya. Daya is covered with Ahimsa. Arjavam, right? Or Tapasya, austerity. These are the 4 pillars of Dharma. So let us see if we can make the connection. What do you think intoxication? Which pillar of Dharma is it stopping you from destroying? Saucham. How is the connection? Somebody can explain how is Saucham? What is drinking got to do with cleanliness? Satyam, that is truthfulness. What is drinking got to do with truthfulness? When you drink, you're telling all lies. Actually, when you drink, the truth comes out. Don't they say that? When you drink the truth, actual what is going on in your heart will come out. So, think about it. When a drunkard is lying on the street, right? He's drunk, he's lying on the street over there. Or, nowadays, we are also getting intoxicated, digital intoxication we call. You're sitting in front of TV and watching movie after movie or binge watching this thing. Have you noticed, as soon as you indulge in this intoxication, your ability to do anything becomes zero. You don't even have the strength to go to your finger to that remote of the TV and turn it off also. That much forget, getting up and doing something, everything has to come to your bed down. Shastras say that intoxication destroys arjavam, this tapasya. Destroys the pillar of tapasya, austerities. You cannot do any austerities if you intoxicate. Okay, now only 3 remaining. Let's see if we can make the remaining connection. So, we said no meat eating. That is easy one. Daya, right? Because just for eating, we don't have compassion on other living entities. So that is Daya. Okay. Then only 2 remaining. Gambling. Satyam, truthfulness. Because gambling means you have to lie in order to, to gamble. So it says it destroys truthfulness. Right? And then, only last thing remaining. How do you make the connection, let us see? No illicit relationships. How does that destroy what is remaining? Cleanliness. How does that destroy cleanliness? Society will be disturbed. See, also, don't we say, don't have dirty thoughts. Don't you say that? Because you see, cleanliness means not just external cleanliness, internal cleanliness also. Both are necessary. In fact, illicit relationship destroys both external cleanliness and internal cleanliness. Right? Because you have to, in order to do these things, you have to really give up your feeling of, like how are you supposed to treat. In fact, the Shastras say that Chanakya Pandit talks about who is a Pandita. And he says, Matruvat paradareshu, laustuvat paradravyeshu, atmavat sarvabhuteshu, yapashyati sa panditaha. The first thing he says about who is a Pandita is Matruvat paradareshu. Everybody other than your wife, you should look at as a mother. So when you are having dirty thoughts, that destroys cleanliness. So these 4 regulative principles are necessary in order to just lay an initial foundation for you to be a human being. But if you do not develop the taste for chanting, the taste for kirtans, for Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and actually taste for prasadam also. That's the easy one to develop, right? Nice, sumptuous prasadam is there, we can develop. So when we keep adding these things, you will see that your heart will get purified and you will slowly start experiencing a higher taste. And when you start experiencing a higher taste from within, all this giving up will become easy. That is why Prabhupada never introduced these 4 regulative principles in the beginning. Anybody comes, you just say, no, just chant Hare Krishna. And read and have darshan of the Lord, have prasadam. That's all. Don't worry about, I have this problem, that problem. All problems, okay. They'll all go away automatically. Right? Don't try to, I'm going to give this up, give that up. You'll attempt, it will be very difficult. You may, up to Vishwavitra stage, you may go, you might control your senses, then one Meraka comes in Hare Krishna. So we have to, internal development, purification has to happen. And that is to these spiritual processes. Right? So we see here, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Okay? In the evolution of bhakti, there are different 9 stages. Adav Shraddha. Initially, you have little Shraddha, you have little faith. Tata Sadhu Sangha. Then Sadhu Sangha, like we're all sitting here, we're all taking each other's association. Right? Then Bhajana Kriya. We start chanting, we start participating in spiritual activities. Anartha Nivrutti. All the anarthas in the heart, unwanted things will disappear. And then you become Nishtha. You become fixed up. When one becomes Nishtha, that is the stage when the attraction for this material world goes away. Why? Not because some restriction is going away, because you have developed a higher taste. Purandara Dasa, one of the famous Vaishnava saints, he sings Rama Nama Sakkarege, Krishna Nama Payasa. It's in Kannada. Rama Nama, Rama's names, is like a payasa, like a sweet rice. And Krishna Nama Sakkare. Sakkare means sugar. Krishna Nama is like a sugar. He's saying that when you chant the names of Rama and Krishna, it is so tasty, so sweet that I need 1,000,000 tongues to relish that taste. Right? We should have faith that one day we will also develop that taste. At that time, when you develop this higher taste, automatically our attraction for lower things will just disappear. Okay? We'll stop here. Anybody's any quick questions or comments? Newcomers after the chanting. 2 times I don't know. Okay. So if there are any newcomers, anybody is coming for the first time to the temple? Few of us. Yeah, I met you yesterday. Very nice. Thank you for coming. So they have this thing, very nice for you to come as well. They have a small, package for you. Please do meet Mataji over there in the counter. She'll give you a small gift. We have a regular program on Sundays like this. We request you to please come and participate. and we'll all chant one round of Hare Krishna together, so we can also try to experience that Rama Nama Paisakke, Krishna Nama Sakkare. Let's see how much we can experience that. Anybody has any quick questions or comments before we start chanting? Maybe one question we can take. Yes. Do they have birth and death? What do you think? No. You can. The flight may drop you. Say, let's say you are in Sudan or something, right? In this planet, that's a little bit lower country, right? So your flight comes and drop you in America. Doesn't mean that now you're part of America. That means that nobody being born in America or what? There are still people. Everywhere there is birth and death. Right? Abrahma Bhuvanar Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. You can go up to all the way up to Brahma's planet, but when you are Punaravartina, when your punya is exhausted, you come down again to Martila. Where we are is where this is the place for gathering punya. And then you go back up and come down. That is why the only place where there is no birth and death, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi is there everywhere. But in Brahma Loka, one day of Brahma is so vast. You can't even it is almost 1,000 Mahayugas. It's billions of years. Just one day of Brahma. And there is a night of Brahma. He's 100 years he lives. It's like trillions of years. But Brahma also one day, after his 100 years, he has to leave. Only when we go back to the spiritual world, we experience Satchit Ananda when we are eternal. That's what the Shastras. Okay? So we'll chant, all of us will chant one round of Hare Krishna together. There is some mantras we'll chant before that. I may be missing a Japamala here. So please repeat after me. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda. We'll chant the Hare Krishna mantra together, all of us. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama.